First story. A woman doesn't want to be at her brother's wedding because her high school bullies will be there. My brother Ben is getting married, and his fiancée Faye went to the same high school as me. I used to be mercilessly bullied in high school and didn't have any friends, which led to a horrible period of depression and anxiety. I now mainly deal with suppressing those memories and cutting off contact with people I knew from high school. Faye used to be part of a mean girl clique who was especially terrible to me. But to be fair, she was more of a follower in the clique. She never directly bullied me, but she used to just laugh along when her clique made fun of me. When Ben started dating Faye, I was shocked and had a hard time dealing with it because it brought back what her clique used to do to me. If I ever bring up something they did, Faye usually just laughs it off, saying she doesn't remember and that they were probably just young and stupid. It took a lot of convincing by Ben and a lot of time working on myself for me to finally forgive Faye and accept her as my brother's girlfriend. Ben and Faye are now engaged, and Ben asked me to be his best woman. I accepted and even agreed to help out with Faye's side of wedding events because her Mo has too much on her plate. The wedding planning has been going smoothly so far, until Faye told me she was going to invite her high school clique to her bachelorette party when she could have it. I immediately felt the old anxiety come back, and I asked her if they would be invited to the wedding too. She said yes, and learning that nearly crushed me. I spent some time thinking about it, and I don't think I could be at the wedding if those people were there. Faye at least never tortured me herself, so I can handle it. But seeing her gang leaders again would very likely trigger my depression, or worse, send me into a panic attack at the wedding itself. I told Ben that I might need to pull out of the wedding because of that, but I can still help however I can with the wedding planning as long as I don't come into contact with Faye's old gang. Ben is very upset and says I'm only thinking of myself, and clearly I don't want to be at his wedding because I still don't accept Faye as his future wife. He also told me I should move on from whatever happened in high school, but even if I tried to do that, a high-stress event like his wedding would be the worst time to test if moving on works. Ada, edit. Thanks so much to everyone who has sent supportive messages in the comments. I got a temp ban for getting into a spat with a troll who called me an attention seeker stupid, I know. So I couldn't continue replying to people, but I really appreciate the support. I don't think Ben and Faye are bad people at heart. Ben just really wants me at his wedding, and Faye, despite our past, has become quite nice and has made efforts to improve her relationship with me. We're still not BFFs, but I recognized her efforts enough to help with the wedding. This new development is, unfortunately, too emotionally charged. As of now, Ben is saying he will stop talking about it, but he's saving me a seat at the wedding no matter what, and he hopes it won't be empty. It's the best reaction I can hope for at the moment, and I hope we can work it out before the wedding. OP shares some of the things that happened in high school in this comment. In high school, I was first made fun of for my acne and clumsiness. I became the target for Faye's friend after I accidentally bumped into her and made her spill her drink. It began with just mean comments from Faye's clique when they saw me and slowly escalated to pranks where they would try to make me spill things on myself and trip me or pull chairs down under me so I would fall. It culminated in Faye's gang leader spreading a terrible rumor about me. Apparently that girl happened to sit next to me for 2 tests, and her grades for those tests were lower than usual. She started telling people that I was cursed and should be avoided. Faye's clique started screaming something like, "curse," every time I entered a room and scattered away from me, which spread throughout the school, and other people began to jump out of the way as well. It evolved into people pushing someone else into me as a prank to infect them, and the infected person can then transfer the curse to someone else until the last person touches me again to get rid of the curse. So there was some weird tracking system of who had the my name curse, and I had to suffer being both avoided by the plague and having random people being pushed into me, and having other randos at the end of the chain seeking me out to touch me to cure themselves. One day I was feeling particularly down, and when I walked into the cafeteria, people yelled curse, and they all scattered away from me again. I was so distraught, I broke down crying and started having a panic attack. People had formed like a circle around me when they scattered, so I was crying and hyperventilating in the middle of that circle, and still no one approached to help because of the curse. A teacher finally intervened and sent me home for the day. I didn't go to school the next few days, and when I went back, the teachers probably had a big talk with the bullies, so the curse thing stopped. But at that point, it was clear I had no friends and wouldn't have made any more friends there, so I asked to transfer to another school at the end of the year. First update. Like I said in my last post, I don't think Faye is a bad person. She tried very hard to grow closer to me after our rocky start. It's a lot of small steps I can't describe. But one example is how she made a point to remember my favorite food to cook, or find out what I like to help Ben pick presents for me. I really did appreciate the effort, which is why I got over my initial disapproval of the relationship, even if she never outright apologized to me. Right after I posted, the situation was tense for weeks. I barely talked to Ben, and our mom heard I didn't want to be at the wedding and got upset at me too. The weird thing was, our mom being mad actually turned Ben around. I told Ben once how mom told me to just get over it when I was being bullied. So when she was ranting at me for being selfish, Ben snapped and told her it was partly her fault this was happening too. There were lots of tears over a few days, but at the end, I managed to tell Ben everything I went through. Ben got mom to back off and told me he wouldn't be mad or pressure me anymore, but he still would like me to be at his wedding if I feel better. What happened next with Faye was actually the most shocking. I still didn't talk to her after I reconciled with Ben because we both felt too awkward, and her bachelorette party went on without me. After the party, Faye finally reached out. It turned out that when her old clique went to her party, she got them to write an apology to me. She gave me an apology letter signed by them and herself, plus some notes from the girls who wanted to add their own apology. It was surreal to get those notes, and it took me days to finish reading because I kept crying. Honestly, I still don't know how to feel about them or how much they actually helped. But what I decided was that this was clearly an effort to mend things from Faye's side, and I should meet them halfway. My intention now is to try to make it to the wedding since Ben and Faye have done their parts. With that said, I'm still worried about my mental state when the actual day comes, and I'm talking to Ben about backup plans in case I still can't feel better enough by then. I'm looking into therapy and have tried 2 different therapists. Neither feels quite right yet since I still feel very uncomfortable talking about what happened, but I'm actively looking for options to resolve my issues. This is probably one of the better ways my situation could have played out, and I'm lucky that I got Ben back on my side. For those who came out with their own bullying experiences, please know that you are in my heart, and I truly hope we can all get better together. Please take care and stay strong. Final update. Hello. It's been a while since my last update, and I don't know if anyone still cares about this, and I can't post more than one update in Ada. I did get some DMs checking on me though, so I'm posting this to give some closure to people who were invested. It's a long update, so please bear with me. As of my last update, you probably remember that Faye sent me an apology letter signed by her old clique who bullied me. After I got the letter, Faye reached out again to say she wanted to sit down and finally have a talk about what happened in high school. At that point, we were about 2 weeks from their wedding. I was still a bit shaken, but after reading the letter, I felt like I could start getting over it, and I didn't want to derail their wedding preparations. So I told Faye that I appreciated what she did, and we should definitely have the talk. But I assured her I knew we could get through it, and her and Ben's relationship is strong, so we can leave the big convo until after the wedding. She agreed, and we set a tentative plan to have the talk. About a week before the wedding though, Faye's grandma's health took a turn for the worse, and it looked like she wasn't going to make it to the wedding. Faye was very close to her grandma and desperately wanted her to see them get married, so they decided to have a small ceremony at their house with just family. We luckily still had decorations from Faye's bachelorette party shower. Faye's niece baked an adorable wedding cake. Faye's brother officiated, and I gave my brother away. Faye's grandma and my parents could only join through video, but it was a really sweet wedding. They were going to still have the reception afterwards, but unfortunately, Faye's grandma passed 3 days before the date. They decided to postpone the party for the family to grieve. They lost some money, but luckily some vendors allowed rescheduling. The silver lining was that the impromptu wedding became a very cherished day for both Faye and Ben. Ben told me afterwards that he was glad he could have me at his wedding after all, and since I was already at his real wedding, it would be up to me whether I wanted to go to the party later on. The wedding finally happened just last month, and I went. I attended as a guest only though, and I asked Ben if a cousin could take on best man duties that day instead. Having already had the real ceremony took away a lot of the wedding stress, so Ben was cool with it. Faye's high school friends were there too, and though I got their letters, I decided to just avoid them. I had just started dating a long-time close friend and brought him to the wedding, and I felt so lucky to have him there to distract and shield me from them. All in all, everything wedding-related ended very well, and Ben and Faye were very happy. Faye and I did try to clear things up after the wedding. Faye told me that she really did not remember me at first, and it only slowly came back to her after a while. By then, it was too awkward to bring it up again, so she just tried to make it up to me by being extra nice and buying me gifts. She apologized for not admitting to it, and for not apologizing to me before, and I believe she was sincere. She also wanted to tell me why she was still friends with my old bullies, but she said it wasn't an excuse, but just a reason. Apparently, despite being terrible to me, they were quite good friends with her, and helped her through some very difficult stuff. The girls who directly bullied me also had a lot of their own issues, like the meanest girl, who suffered from an eating disorder and had a failed self-harm attempt in the final year of high school after I had already changed schools. It was more than I wanted to know about my bullies, but I guess people are complicated, and at least they were nice to someone else, I guess. After a lot of talking and crying, Faye and I landed in an okay place. I can't stop her from having her friends in her life, and I am trying to deal with my issues, but I still don't want to interact with them. And she's going to have to plan around that if she has any future events. I'm also a bit embarrassed to admit that I dropped my search for a therapist after a few tries. I couldn't find one that I could feel safe around, and after my trial sessions, I ended up feeling worse, so I paused the search to gather myself before trying again. What has helped is my brother finally understanding me, and my boyfriend who has known about my bullying experience since college supporting me. Even listening to Faye's stories also weirdly kind of helped, like I feel I can address things now. So I think for now the help I need is from my partner and family, and I can try therapy again once I'm in a better place. So sorry that was so long. This will probably be my last update, and I hope it gives anyone reading some closure as well. Thanks again to everyone who left me supportive comments and messages, and know that I'm sending you all of my good vibes. OP gave an update in the Best of Redditors comment section. Hey there. I had logged out and thought it was the end of this throwaway, but I saw this post from my main account, so I logged in to say thank you to everyone who left supportive comments. I do hope to give some more context to my relationship with Ben and Faye, because I didn't mean to make them out to be total villains. Regarding how Faye forgot me, I remembered someone commenting on my first post that it's not unusual for bullied people to remember the events more than the bullies. I guess it makes sense too. It was traumatizing for me, but it was just a few months in high school for them, because I changed schools after I couldn't take it anymore. It felt bad at first that Faye didn't remember when I asked her when we first met again, but I think after a while I was glad she forgot, and we didn't have to talk about it further, because at that point I just wanted to stop thinking about it at all. I see now that avoidance wasn't the best strategy, and I feel much better now that people close to me understand what happened. I think maybe my bringing it up at first, but then refusing to address it more also meant I closed off any opening for Faye to try to deal with it when she started to remember. I know some people think I'm being too easy on Faye, and others are cynical that Faye only got the apologies to me to push the blame on me somehow. But it's not so black and white. My view of her results from knowing her for a while, more than just this incident, and it's much more complicated to judge a person in real life than through a story. From interacting with her, I believe she is sincere in her apology and wanting to fix things, and her and my brother's relationship is a healthy one that I can support despite my initial feelings. About my brother, we also had a rocky relationship for many years. I can't give too many details because it may give away my main account. But basically, our parents had a messy divorce and forced us to take sides. Ben didn't have a good relationship with Mom, so he stayed with Dad and eventually moved further away when Dad got a new job. He wasn't around when the bullying happened, so he didn't really understand why I was so affected. We resented each other for a long time, but reconciled when we realized how effed up it was that our parents were driving us apart. Ben also tried to patch things up with Mom, and they are kind of okay now. When we just started to get close, Ben only introduced me to his girlfriend when it was really serious. So when I found out it was Faye, they were already very much in love, and I didn't want to ruin it, seeing how happy Ben was. I also believe Faye really didn't remember me at first, because they met through an alumni group. Ben went to the same school as me, and she never made the connection between our names. So for context, Ben didn't know how badly I was bullied, because I minimized it as part of my avoidance, and he met Faye not knowing she was part of the bully clique. He saw asking me to be his best woman as a big step in our relationship, and he felt my trying to back out was me abandoning him again. It was a sucky situation for both of us given our history, and he turned around after understanding what really happened to me. We talked about it a lot more after I posted, and it really helped us become even closer. So yeah, we are all in better places now and are working on our relationships, so I really don't want it to seem like they are evil or anything. It really seems like things are going to work out. Anyway, I tend to log out right after posting, because after my last few posts, I realized I always get a bit emotional after posting. So I try to only come back and read and reply to the comments and messages when I'm calmer. So, sorry if I don't reply to you immediately, and thanks again for caring about me. Second story. OP gave a second chance to her boyfriend, who abandoned her and their child and regretted it all over again. Some background. When I was 16, I was in love with Matt, who was 2 years older than me. We were just friends until we started spending more time together, but we never really put a label on our relationship, and he always dodged answering when I would ask him if we were exclusive. It wasn't long before we started sleeping together. We kept this up for a few years. Around the time I was turning 18, I found out he joined the Air Force in honor of his deceased father. He promised to keep in touch, but did the exact opposite. To my surprise, he left me a gift in the form of a baby, and I had a hard decision to make. After hearing the heartbeat, I couldn't deny that I wanted the child and decided to keep the child, and eventually gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, naming her Jade. But because our relationship was pretty hush-hush, I decided not to tell anyone who the father was. I told everyone I didn't know who he was, and it cost me my reputation. With the support of my parents and very few friends, I was able to raise my daughter into the adorable little girl she is today. And she turns 2 years old in just a few days. Well, earlier today I went shopping with my daughter, and I bumped into Matt. Apparently he's returned. I tried to ignore and avoid him, but he started chasing after me and asking questions about my daughter. I paid for our stuff and got home, but he followed me. It didn't take him long to piece anything together, and he realized that Jade was our daughter. He started begging me to be in her life. I don't really trust him to be in her life, but I'm starting to feel guilty. I don't want him to not have a relationship with his own daughter, but I don't want him to hurt her like he hurt me. Would I be the if I told him to stay TF away? Or should I give him a chance with her? Some additional information from OP is in the comments. He wanted to keep our relationship a secret, especially from his mother. We weren't even officially dating, and he avoided talking about being exclusive. When I was pregnant, I asked his mom to see if I could contact him through her. I couldn't get through to him, no matter how hard I tried. And she looked at me and said that if it was his, she would sue me and take the baby away from me. That's when I started to say I had no idea who the father was and kept it hidden. When we first started sleeping together, it seemed he only wanted to be around me to sleep with me. Otherwise, he was most likely ashamed to be seen with me in public. We were always hiding when we were together, and if his mom ever caught us, she'd chase me away, and he would let her in while telling her some excuse as to why we were together. I tried to break it off multiple times, but he always swore up and down that it wouldn't happen. He'd like to take me out on dates, etc. He wouldn't let me go. It wasn't until he left for the Air Force that he went completely silent. I tried my best to contact him. I even asked his mom, and she refused. Now he's back, and he's trying to get in my pants again, while he's begging to be in Jade's life. I know that once he gets what he wants, he will likely just leave again. OP is voted ITA. Update. I let my daughter's father into her life after being judged on Reddit. I regret it. Just about last year, I posted on ITA asking if I should or shouldn't let my daughter's father into her life. I tried to post an update, but the community denied me, and I decided to move on since I was harshly judged anyway. But with new issues popping up, I decided to come to Reddit once more. To summarize my ITA post. Matt, a childhood friend of mine, and the man I had feelings for, and I had slept together. He left for the Air Force and left me with a baby. What I didn't mention in the post was that I tried to tell him, but he blocked me or something and refused to contact me. I've tried to go to his mother, but she refused to contact him for me and stated she'd sue me for custody of the baby if it was his. Knowing she was serious, I went with the narrative that I had no idea who the father was and raised Jade with help from my parents. 2 years passed, and I bumped into him at a store. He asked me questions about Jade and followed me home, then put together that Jade was his and asked to be in her life. Some extra information. Matt and I were very hush-hush. If we went out and he saw someone he knew, he would leave me to go with them. My family used to be very close with him until his dad died, and then his mom suddenly hated us and did not want him around me. His family is also wealthy, and this is why I took it seriously when his mom threatened to sue me for custody of Jade if she knew she was Matt's. Now for the update and beyond that. I told a friend that knew both me and Matt pretty closely, and she had become my best friend. She decided to have her brother draw up a contract for me to use so that I could safely have Matt in Jade's life without having to worry. I told Matt, and we both signed the contract, and my friend had her brother do his thing to notarize it. The first thing he asked me once everything was signed was if this meant we could sleep with each other again. I said no and stayed firm that this wasn't for us. This was for them. It wasn't long before I learned he was engaged to someone else anyway, so I was confused as to why he even asked. Whenever he came to see Jade, he would complain about his fiancée and how his mom was making him marry her. I didn't say anything about it until he started flirting with me and asking to be with me. I told him he is engaged, and I am not going to be the other woman, nor is my daughter. He proceeds to bring her to the place I work and break up with her there. In turn, she comes up to me and tells me that people talk, and she knows what I've been doing. I felt guilty about it first, but Matt really stepped up after that happened. He became even more attentive towards Jade, spent as much time with her as possible, and even revealed himself as the father to my parents and everyone else. I found myself hoping for us to become a family and rekindling my feelings for him. He convinced me that he was serious about us, and I began sleeping with him again. I had found out from someone else that he was going to be sent out again, and I confronted him and asked if he was going to tell me. He said he was, and that this time he would keep in contact with me and Jade. He went and was doing okay for a while. He contacted us every Friday. But then suddenly, he stopped contacting me. He wouldn't answer my calls or texts. It was like the past all over again. I tried asking his mom, and she just brushed me aside and told me to do a DNA test, so she could either take custody of Jade or take me to court for falsifying Matt as the father. It didn't help that I learned he was engaged, once again, to that woman. And I learned that I was pregnant once again. That is where my update ended. But now I have more, which inspired me to come back to Reddit. It's been 8 months since then, and I have moved into a new house and left my old house behind. I wish I could say that I found a new love, but that's not the case. I don't even think I'd be capable of finding someone new right now with 2 kids under my belt. I've been scared to get back out there after my experience with Matt. But that's not what I'm posting about. I think I'm afraid of what will happen when he returns in a few months. I don't know if he would come looking for us again, or if I should even let him back into our lives. I've tried for months to get a hold of him, with no success. I've even tried letters, going through friends, etc. My best friend's brother has a friend that's in his unit, and they can use phones, have service and such. But I have no idea why he pulled the disappearing act again. Or why he's engaged and set to marry that woman again. Jade stopped asking for him months ago. Just after he broke her heart, she's cried for him so many times. I'm happy she's forgotten him because she's back to her usual happy-go-lucky self. But I really don't think I'm going to make the mistake again and let him back into our lives. It's better without it. So you guys can judge me and tell me I'm horrible. But I know what's best for my daughter, and now my son. Thank you for reading this far, and I hope I won't have to update again. To those of you who supported me, thank you. Edit. I also posted this in the comments. I want to say that it's hard to be so harshly judged again. My blinders for my feelings towards Matt have really caused some real issues for me and my family. And I know that's my own fault and no one else's. No, Reddit didn't tell me to sleep with him again. Reddit told me to have him in her life, which is what I did. Sleeping with him was on me, and I do know that. I should have stopped him when he refused to wear condoms. I should have just said no to sleeping with him. That's on me, and I already know that. My thing was that the community harshly shamed me for keeping Matt from Jade when I knew he was in it to get to me. But I gave him the benefit of the doubt because I did agree that Jade should have her father in her life. I've read most of the comments, and I've decided to look into getting a lawyer. I won't allow Matt in again, because his leaving again really woke me up. To those who think that this is fake, or that there's some story out there that sounds like mine, I'm sorry you feel that way. I wish this was some kind of story, but this is really happening to me, as unfortunate as it is. The reason I left out so much from my original post was, honestly, because of the word count limit. I didn't know that leaving it out would cause such harsh judgment. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.